Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Lorden Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Case Cracked is the show where we look into a mystery and what are the critical pieces that help solve that mystery. Today's episode is called A Lost Truth. James Essel and his wife moved from Ghana in West Africa to the United States around 1959. Both loved the town they grew up in by the sea, but they wanted a fresh start and a chance at the American dream, not only for themselves, but for their 7 children as well. Once they settled in Washington, D.C., James proved to be a very hard worker, and the couple soon opened an African restaurant called Warababa. The restaurant on Kennedy Street Northwest was successful, but James would go on to find even more success, working full-time as a branch manager at banks in the D.C. area. For decades, the family prospered, until the early 90s when James decided it was time to retire. As he and his wife reminisced about their early days in Ghana, he decided that he wanted to recapture the sense of peace he had felt as a child growing up by the sea. The family decided to purchase a small town store in Comus, Maryland, called the Sugarloaf Mountain Market. He felt this would be a place where they could get to know everyone and help the community as well. The people of Comus seemed to love James and his family. He was known to them by his first or middle name, and he would talk to everyone who came in. In some cases, he'd even extend credit to locals that needed it. Some of his children would also work shifts at the store, and they seemingly got along well with everyone, just like their father did. On the evening of March 22nd, 1992, 57-year-old James was working by himself at the market on Old Hundred Road. At 6 p.m., one of his customers came in to find James on the floor near the cash register, covered in blood. Quickly, the man called 911. When police arrived, word spread quickly to the Essel family that their father had been attacked. His eldest daughter, Evangeline, inquired as to what hospital he had been taken to. Sadly, there was no hospital. Her father had already passed. An autopsy would show that he had been stabbed a total of 29 times and had been hit over the head with a heavy object. Crime in this area was almost unheard of. Pleas for help from the police were quickly made to the public, who were more than eager to try to help. Investigators believed that the perpetrator entered the store at about 5:30 p.m. The last receipt in the now empty register showed that 9 minutes later, someone bought a bottle of wine. Instead of paying for the wine, the man demanded all the money in the register. James didn't take this lightly and either began to fight the man or was attacked by the robber. Unfortunately, he was quickly overcome when he was hit over the head with the wine bottle the man had just bought, then stabbed to death. The only other piece of evidence left behind was blood that was found on the cash register drawer and on the front of the store. The samples belonged to the attacker and had been dropped after he cut himself during the fight. The murder weapon itself was never found, but it was thought to be a medium, smooth-bladed knife. There had also been a car sighted around the store at the time of the murder. Reported to be a dark-colored Fiero, it unfortunately was never found. Investigators were able to recover a full DNA profile, but it didn't match anyone in any database known at that time. How do you find someone with such little evidence? Suspects were looked at, but all were cleared. As the Essel family started their long wait, their father's case would grow cold for the next 24 years. That was until 2016, when investigators announced to the public that they had DNA evidence. Somebody out there knows who did this, said Montgomery County Detective Mark Janney. Other clues that were released were that the killer was believed to smoke either Marlboro or Marlboro Light cigarettes. Pictures of the Pontiac Fiero were re-released. Investigators now thought that the killer had backed into a space located on the left side of the store. It was also believed that the perpetrator knew the area and was familiar with the store and its closing time. In 2017, investigators sent their DNA evidence to Parabon Nanolabs, where a DNA phenotype snapshot was created for their suspect at age 25 and at age 50. Along with the composite picture created, the man was thought to have brown eyes, black hair, and was of Central or South American descent. The DNA profile was uploaded to GEDmatch so that a genetic family tree could be built. Luckily, the Montgomery County Police Department had an officer on staff who was skilled at genealogy searches. Soon, a distant relative was uncovered, and several months later, a complete family tree had been made. They now had two suspects to obtain swabs from for comparison, a man named Hans Hewitts and his brother, both of whom lived in Virginia Beach, Virginia. The brother was tested and found to be a close match, but not the murderer. Virginia Beach police assisted in getting the Montgomery County detectives a search warrant to collect Hans Hewitts' DNA. He was approached at his work on February 11, 2020, where a cheek swab was collected. Hours later, their lab concluded that Hewitts was a match to the profile collected at the scene of the murder. 51-year-old Hans Hewitts was known on his block on Maitland Drive in Virginia Beach by many. He worked as a mechanic at a National Tire and Battery store that was less than a mile from his home. Investigators were told that he was always willing to help his neighbors in the quiet cul-de-sac that he, his wife, and her brother lived in with her children from a previous marriage. He was always willing to help with car repairs and pretty much anything else that was needed. Hewitts had no criminal record and was never considered in the first investigation as he lived 30 miles from the crime scene. The next day, on the 12th, investigators obtained a search warrant, this time for first-degree murder, felony murder, and robbery with a dangerous weapon. Hewitts was stopped in his car by police and U.S. Marshals just before dawn, a quarter of a mile from his home. As they attempted to bring him into custody, officers say that Hewitts pulled out a gun. The response was immediate as people in the neighborhood and cameras nearby heard 4 shots ring out. Hewitts died of injuries in the exchange. When investigators contacted James's oldest surviving daughter, Perpetua, she expressed her gratitude for having the case finally closed, but she still has questions. She now knew the who in her father's murder, but not the why. She may never know that answer. For her part, Perpetua still feels that she and her family have been given a measure of closure. Quote, "I was in a dream. I couldn't believe what I was hearing at the time. One, that it was over and they found the guy and he was just living his life all these years. I was just in shock. I wish the guy could have served time for the crime. I just can't even imagine. How can someone live like that all these years, knowing what he did? To know that it's over is a huge relief for me and my siblings." However, it's not a relief for Hewitts' family, as they're now left with the question of why he did it and do they even believe that he actually committed the robbery and murder? His wife, Haiti Hewitts, is now on a mission of her own. She had been married to Hewitts for 6 years, but had known him since the two were children. She's also a private investigator and former officer for the Washington, D.C. police force. She claims to have never heard of the 1992 incident and was stunned by the allegations against her husband. She said, quote, "First, I would like to give my deepest condolences to the Essel family. It is a horrible pain to bear. I'm truly sorry for their loss. My mission is to clear my husband's, Hans Hewitts' name. My husband was not a fugitive." Case cracked. I would like to thank the Washington Post, localdvm.com, 13newsnow.com, pilotonline.com, and bethesdamagazine.com. Of course, the biggest thank you goes to Christy Arnhart for researching and writing up today's case, and here she is now to discuss it with us. Christy, this is an instance where you really have to feel for both families.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I know that we're pretty victim focused here on the channel. We're really heavy into those considerations of what those families are going through. But on the flip side of this, you have a woman that has lost her husband, isn't quite sure that he had anything to do with this. And, you know, how is she going to find answers in all this? I don't know. Now, she's former law enforcement, private investigator. If there's some way to investigate this out, sounds like she's got the skills to do it.
Hmm.
but she's coming up against DNA.
It's really hard to refute the DNA.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, there's some things I can consider where, like, finding his DNA on the front of the store. What if he was just a patron? What if he was someone that just happened to come by? He had a cut on his hand,
Hmm.
left some blood. That's what they found. But you've also got it closer, kind of involved in the crime scene. On
Hmm.
the register. Like, I don't know. That's really, really tough.
Well, I keep coming back to the same question. Why are we getting so many cases with positive DNA matches where it's, this person definitely committed this crime, but the friends and family are always stunned?
Yeah, that's been something that I know through the Gabby Petito case. A lot of people have been having conversations. I've had conversations, like seeing the Brian Laundrie aspect of, seemingly like his family might have covered, or, at least got him resources, with the
Hmm.
attorney and stuff like that. It really raised some of those conversations for me between my personal friends and interpersonal group. And I think there's an aspect, particularly for parents, where they are just hardwired to protect their children,
Yeah.
even if it's something like that. With siblings, I think it could be a little bit weaker, but if I mean, can you imagine if your brother came to you, Christy, and said, "Yeah, you know what, I was responsible for something," or your brother came to you and said, "They're accusing me of being responsible for something." Think of
Mm.
what's the first reaction you're going to have to that? Oh, there's no way you
Yeah.
did that. And then once you get past that, even if you think there's a possibility, don't you think the thought runs through your mind about, can I help them get out of this some way?
Yeah.
Can we get them out of the country? Or, it's really tough because I know what the right answer should be. I know I
Hmm.
want to say that if I was in that situation, I'd say face up to it. But the truth is, you don't know until you're in that situation, and
Yeah.
it's your loved one. Their heart, their eyes, looking into your eyes with this information. Like, you never know how that's going to affect you. So,
That's true.
and this guy, no criminal record.
I know. It's crazy. I always thought once an offender, always offender. But a lot of the cases I've saw in the last few years have really made me rethink that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think what we're seeing is a lot of the crime statistics that we had before this run of genealogy solves.
Hmm.
Ultimately, those stats are built on kind of known outcomes for cases. Like, if you look into
Hmm.
those stats, they'll even say, like, well, we only have information for 60% of the cases because the other 40% are unsolved already. So they'll kind of cut that stuff out. So when you look at these crime stats and, like the ones about a significant other being involved
Hmm.
in a murder, like, shows it that it's really high. But you've got this other 40% you don't know about because it's already been removed.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to this point where it doesn't matter the relationship information. The DNA is what's telling us the answer. So it could be, there's a possibility that there's a lot more of these types of cases. No criminal record, person unconnected to the other person,
Hmm.
no family connection, no interpersonal connection. We might learn through this new run of genealogy solves that there's a lot more to all that. But what it's also showing is these cases have no traditional means of being solved.
Yeah.
Like, how would you have ever got to that guy? If there's no connectivity, he lives 30 miles away. Like, how do you ever, outside of maybe an eyewitness that, picked up, oh, well, I saw the vehicle and I caught part of the plate or something. But
Hmm.
when there's no interpersonal connectivity, this case could have been unsolvable if it wasn't for genetic genealogy. You
Well,
know,
it's really showcasing how little we know about the people around us.
it's a good point. It's a good point. Now, you mentioned Snapshot
Hmm.
in this. I've always had a very weird feeling about Snapshot. And it's weird because Parabon actually markets Snapshot as kind of two products together.
Hmm.
One is the genetic genealogy component, which is like the family tree, them tracing it down. But the other one is the one that I'm personally more critical of. And I like what they're going for. The idea is using the DNA that they can build kind of a computer model of what you supposedly look like.
Hmm.
I've been critical of it because the models that I've seen, it looks like if I was playing a video game and I tried to make a model of myself.
It does look like character creation, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, it looks like a sim. It looks like someone from The Sims. So I've always been really skeptical about, is that really going to be helpful or not? What did you think of the phenotype
Well, in
picture?
this case, I didn't think it looked much like him at all.
Yeah,
I have saw a couple of cases where they kind of hit it on the head, but usually, nah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're doing it in kind of like a mechanism for a digital lineup of some kind, and you have an
Hmm.
eyewitness, like
Hmm.
maybe that would help nudge them towards, oh, I think it looked more like this person.
Hmm.
I really can't think of a great use for it. But coincidentally, a fan of the channel, Barbara T, sent me a message recently that Parabon Nanolabs, they're actually trying to improve that component snapshot. And I've
Oh, good.
always said that, with more information, they could hopefully improve it. But you're still talking about odds and statistics. Like there's a
Mhm.
chance that they would have this color eye. There's a chance that they would have freckles.
Yeah.
And it doesn't account for environmental factors like what if they had scars or they were severely overweight, or it has no accounting for any of that stuff. But
Yeah.
if you guys believe in Snapshot, you want to help them out, you can do that. If you've had your DNA genotype file done and you want to help, visit parabon-nanolabs.com/volunteer, and I'll have that link in the description box down below. Ultimately, more samples should improve the quality. I don't know that we'll ever reach what they're thinking of, the dream, of like, here's this DNA sample, roll it into the computer, and then a picture of John pops up.
I
Like,
know it's like, boom, it's Christy.
yeah, yeah. I don't think we'll ever quite get to that, but
Hmm.
I do think there might be times where it could be helpful to have even a general idea. So
Hmm.
if you want to help them out, that link's down below. All right. Anything to add before we end here, Christy?
No, I think that's it. I'm just constantly brought back to the whole, how a family member, how could he commit this? Just,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just shows how diverse we all are. It
Yeah.
really makes me scratch my brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all your hard work on this. And we've got some other people to thank right now. Thank you, PayPal supporters Amanda Beard, Melissa Heinbach, San Rodenberg, and a special thank you to longtime friend and supporter of the channel, Christy Groves. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit lordandarts.com. There, you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or just buy us a coffee, like Catherine Simpson recently did. We know that learning about the mechanisms that help support and find justice in these cases is important to understand the many unsolved cases we also cover, and we really appreciate your support in allowing us to continue doing this. Remember, you can get another Lord and Art story every week on the Seriously Mysterious podcast. A new episode is coming tomorrow and every Tuesday after that. Visit seriouslymysterious.com and remember to subscribe on your favorite podcatchers. Also, while you're here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon below if you want to catch one of our weekly Secret Studio live shows. And of course, I'll be back with a new unsolved mystery for you on Friday, right here on the Lord and Arts channel.